Hey guys, and welcome back to Castle Crush. And today we are going to be playing with the Catapult again, and especially here today with the Ice Elemental as a combo card with the Catapult. Now, the Catapult is a very strong finishing card in Castle Crush, but it has really no ability to defend itself. So you need cards to either block for it or to defend it while it finishes off your opponent's castle. And it's a strategy that I still see used, but it definitely takes some good comboing to be able to set it up, really, because you need the right cards to block, and you need to make the right decisions in terms of where you place your catapults. So I did the best job I could here to try and put together a catapult deck with some interesting matches, and that is what you are going to see here are some very interesting matches here. And I also still have Metamorph in here as well. Metamorph is just so fun, I couldn't really remove it because it's just, I could do a deck with I could use Metamorph with every type of deck in the game except a skeleton deck or an archer deck, and it would still be tons of fun because it's just such a fun card. So here's the deck that we are using. As you can see, double catapults. I end up switching that later for a single catapult because it was, well, right here actually I switched it for vampire because I felt like it was more useful to have another card that could defend the catapults because, well, you need something to defend them. And they cost 7 mana each, so oftentimes, getting a bunch of them out there quickly is not super doable anyways. So I wanted to try and avoid the situation where I might have 2 in my hand early in the game, because that's usually not a good thing, as I can't usually play them until I'm pretty set up. So I think running 2 catapults is kind of tough in a deck. So you can see here I also focused heavily on the Golem. The Golem is a great card for blocking, as well as the Ice Elemental, but in particular the Golem just because of its low mana cost. Now, as I discovered, I really probably could have used a card such as the Fire Elemental here. I think maybe that's a card I was missing in this deck as things progressed a little bit, because I did have some trouble dealing with the ranged cards eventually, and the Spike Statue is a card I employed, but the Spike Statue is only effective really against certain types of cards. And as you can see here, the top 2 lanes here, I didn't really have the best ways of removing the cards they were playing. And of course, Metamorph was not helping. And yeah, pretty difficult spot here in this deck, but then I get another Valk, so that was pretty good. And I was doing my best to try and just keep the pressure on their castle. But it's difficult because the Ice Elemental doesn't do well against ranged cards, so I was lucky to be able to catch that mage at close range. That was pretty game-changing right there. And then blocking with the Golem, and we're able to pick up that win, which is a pretty nice win, actually. So on to the next match here, and in this one, we have a pretty similar sort of setup between myself and my opponent here. I was trying to kind of metamorph what they had and just kind of use that to get stuff out there early. Again, I'm trying to set up for the catapults, so I want to make sure that I have stuff out there early, because the catapult takes a while to set up. So I was kind of just using the metamorphs early to try and get anything I could out there. And this player did a pretty good job of trying to just rush this middle lane. Rush in the sense that they had that Mud Elemental stack there with the Phoenix. That was a pretty dangerous stack, but I was able to do enough in terms of getting the Mud Elemental out of the way, which was the most dangerous card. And then I was barely holding on in the bottom lane there, blocking for that catapult. Pretty clutch. As you can see, the vampire coming up really clutch. especially feeding off that golem to block the catapult for the catapult. And I mean, I was just like, okay, I need to block middle lane obviously now because that's where they're doing all their damage. And then they spent their Black Witch in the top lane, so I was like, all right, Valkyrie is probably clear. But then no, they had another Black Witch. So that happened, but I was able to get back in the bottom lane incredibly briefly, and then able to get down another catapult, and this time that's going to be a tough one for them to stop. They bring in the Archer Queen, but there's just so much damage being done by that catapult, and then finally the Phoenix in the top lane that they got overwhelmed. But that was a good match, actually. My opponent did a pretty solid job of trying to contest that. Okay. Again, sometimes I start off hands with a Black Knight, and usually I end up getting rid of the Black Knight because it's often just not a card I can get out very quickly. Luckily here, I was able to make a play. Perhaps I should have saved the mana ritual, but I saw an opportunity with the Metamorph to try and get a pretty good start. So I went ahead and did that, and I was trying to go after the Phoenix, and then I get exactly the card I need there with the Demon, and I'm able to do that, and I'm still maintaining pretty much the upper hand here in this match. So I go for the quick counter on the Demon with the spiked statue. And, I mean, they use a Vampire on that, but that's not really a big deal because, honestly, I think that's a mana trade that works out in my favor. And even when people use Ice Elemental, like right there against the Valkyrie, I don't really care that much because the Ice Elemental doesn't usually do that much damage to the Valkyrie. It's worse once they put the Shaman on it. By itself, the Ice Elemental really doesn't do that much damage to a card that fast, so usually I'll take that with a Valkyrie and kind of ignore it. But you can see here I start to realize I'm in trouble because this person has Gust of Wind, which is not so good against a Catapult deck. That's a very difficult card to play against, and they have an Ice Elemental now of their own, and yeah, I kind of got in a bad spot here because I don't have a great counter to the Ice Elemental, was what I started to realize, and really kind of got outplayed there. Really got outplayed because I had no counter to the Ice Elemental except for the Demon, and, well, yeah, just didn't really work out. So let's open up a few chests here, see what we've got. This is from this clip's actually from a different day, so that's why I have so many more additional chests available. And some fresh victory chests to work towards. And I get a few interesting things, maybe a epic card, sorry, here and there. I've got an Angel, and that's good. I really haven't pulled a legendary in quite a while now, so I'm thinking it's probably about time I should get one. So I've been trying to record when I open chests recently because I'm like, well, I should get a legendary sooner or later. So I may as well actually record it this time. I think the last time I got one, I didn't record it, and that always kind of sucks because people like to see it. People like to see that it can in fact happen. You know, that you can get a legendary card out of, say, a silver chest or, you know, a victory chest or a free chest. And I've gotten legendaries out of both free chests and victory chests, but only like once of each in like 3 years. So, you know, it takes a while, but I also wasn't opening chests daily that entire time either, so I'm sure you can get them at least every now and then. And here again, you can see how powerful it is to have multiple golems with like a catapult behind them. Just very difficult for my opponent to counter if they don't have Gust of Wind or some type of card like a Lightning or Black Witch or Fire Elemental. And they made a push there in that top lane, but I was just shutting it down. Shutting it down. And they just could not get through that double golem I put down. That was too strong of a play for them, and I got a magic chest. So I'll be excited to see what we can get out of that magic chest as the days go on here. I should be able to open it fairly soon. And the victory chest, you can see right there what I got out of that. So that is just super exciting right there to actually get a magical chest, because that could give us a pretty decent chance at making a legendary pull, which would be pretty sweet because I haven't had the chance to do that in a while. I haven't really done any chest opening videos in quite a long time either. I just don't really have the motivation to do those when I already have all of the cards in the game. It doesn't feel quite as useful to me, so that's partly why I hadn't really done any of those recently, and I don't know. Maybe one would happen? I don't know. We'll see how it all goes. Again, playing the Metamorph just to try and get some resistance going to their push. Sometimes with decks that are focused heavily around early game, you just need to play anything you possibly can to counter, not even counter, but just to delay what they're playing so that you can get your strategy moving. Especially if it's more like a mid to end game strategy, sometimes you just need to buy some time. And right here, I was able to just kind of minimize some of the damage they were throwing at my castle. I really wanted to play that golem there, so I just decided it was best to double up in that one lane, and that was doing a lot of damage against their castle here. Close match, mostly because I didn't block top lane very well, so I finally do that, and that is able to finish that off right as they were getting the dragon out there too, so it was just in time, really. Now this match here, I think I played a little sloppily, but I started out pretty well. As you'll see, I really made a nice start here. They did really nice counters with the Black Witch the entire match, really. I mean, that was a clutch one right there on the Valkyrie to start the match, because I could have really just gone all in on them if they had, if they hadn't Black Witch that Valk. I really could have probably gone all in. I thought it was set up really well here, but they used the Demon and the Black Witch exceptionally well in this match, and every time I really started to make a big play, they just did a great job of getting rid of things. That was a bad Demon on my part, but honestly, there weren't really that many chances to use the Demon well in this match, because as you'll see, that was a lucky Metamorph, but once they got these skeletons out here, I had a very hard time using the Demon at all. And I was just trying to go back in here with the Valkyrie here, and I thought I was doing the right thing here, but then they get the dragon out, and I'm kind of like, uh-oh. And I'm looking at the cards I have. I should have just played the cards I had here as fast as possible, really. And I made a mistake by waiting, because then the Valkyrie was down, so I couldn't play some of these cards as quickly, and I think that kind of hurt in the end. Because I should have really just played down what I had and tried to work for those few seconds while I had the Valkyrie out there, because maybe I could have like countered some of all the stuff they were playing a little bit. And I don't know why I was playing these spike statues where I was just kind of confused what to do, because they had a good mix of range cards. This was a balanced type of deck they were playing, and it was kind of hard for me to get set up the way I wanted to. And it's possible right there I should have really just focused, doubled down on the bottom lane to try and set up for another catapult if I gotten one, but you can see it was so hard because, you know, I knew they had Demon, they had Black Witch, they had Dragon. This is you know, a fairly balanced deck. This was a deck that was difficult for me to contend with, and at the end of the day, I really only had one chance to maybe kind of get back into it, but it was going to be tough. You know, with these gimmicky decks, like, you kind of have to have things go your way, and this person played very well and had good counters to what they had counters that I wasn't prepared to get rid of. So yeah, I did what I could there and played a little sloppily, but I think at the end of the day, you know, usually when they have you sort of outranged at the end game, especially with like Black Witch and Dragon, it was just going to be hard for my deck to get through. So I had to just accept that I kind of had a window to win that last match, and I wasn't able to get it. So, on to the next one. And in this one, I got a pretty nice play right there, metamorphing the Mud Elemental. That was huge. But they do a great job here in the middle lane of just getting rid of a couple of key cards. I counter back, and I'm still in great shape here. I'm still in pretty much key position, but their Mud Elemental is getting close, and that giant growth makes it suddenly very dangerous and suddenly a very real threat. But I did a great job here of delaying that Mud Elemental. If that was on my castle, it would have done a ton of damage. So I just did everything I could do to delay it and just keep hammering their castle. You can see how large their Mud Elemental was. I mean, it would not have taken long for that thing to destroy my castle, but luckily I stuck with it. Anyways, guys, that is going to do it for this video. So I hope you all enjoyed some Catapult gameplay. It's such a great finishing card in Castle Crush, and you can really do some creative stuff to just work it into different types of strategies, especially really gimmicky strategies. So leave a like if you enjoyed. Let me know what you thought about this video in the comments and what other types of content I should create. Maybe subscribe if you're new to my channel. And thanks for watching, guys, and stay tuned for more videos.